Oh, hello, race fans. Well, it's finally happened. The showdown that we were expecting is about to kick off. The new Warbirds gang, led by Major Tom in his car, the B-17, have set up their new headquarters right on the border of Black Widders territory. Here we see the B-17, a beauty of a car with a turreted heavy machine gun and rear-facing mine droppers. And here's the first recruit to the Warbirds gang. It is a car known as Skeeter, and it's driven by Flight Lieutenant Chalky Board Rubber. This car is armed with twin-linked forward-firing heavy machine guns. It's a performance car, and it's gonna pack a punch. Old Ma O'Hara, the matriarch of the Black Widders, has dispatched two of her daughters to take up this border incursion issue with Major Tom. Here we can see Mary Lou O'Hara driving Venom. This car is fitted with a very vicious looking front ram and a front firing heavy machine gun. And backing up Mary Lou is Peggy Sue O'Hara driving Redback, a performance car fitted with a turret-mounted mortar and a front-facing machine gun. The image here shows the site of the battle to come. You can see that the two Black Widders are entering from the northwest and appear to have caught the Warbirds napping. The Black Widders are entering in gear 2. The Warbirds are starting in gear 1. The Black Widders have pole position and Venom is entering the fray with a medium straight. Rolling a spin, shift and a slide, that's a reasonable opening roll for a first round. So Mary Lou's changing up to gear 3. She's taking the hazard for that manoeuvre, but cancelling it with the free shift that comes with the manoeuvre, the medium straight. And she's making good use of the good old slide spin, gaining just a little bit of extra distance, but also 2 hazards into the bargain. Peggy Sue in Redback following her sister. Oh, 2 shifts, a slide and a spin. Using the 2 shifts to cancel the slide and spin, using the free shift from the medium straight to change up, and taking a hazard for that gear change because she doesn't have any shifts left to cancel it. Decent roll from Major Tom, the end result being he has completed that turn, he has no hazards, and he's changed up to gear 2. Obviously keen to get involved. You join us a few moments later. Our cameras didn't catch the intervening action, our cameraman having to take cover due to some of the activity taking place here. But the Redback, driven by Peggy Sue, is opening fire on Skeeter with her turret-mounted mortar. 2 hits plus 2 critical hits, that's 6 points of damage. Can Skeeter evade? No! That performance car has just taken a pounding, leaving just 2 points of damage for that car. The situation is precarious for Flight Lieutenant Chalky Board Rubber and his car Skeeter. So Mary Lou has managed to catch Major Tom head on with her massive vicious looking ram. It's a head on hit, gear 3 for both cars, so that's a 6 dice impact. Plus Mary Lou gets an extra 2 for her ram, and because she's got a ram fitted, she takes no hazards from this impact. Wow, that's a massive 7 damage to the B-17. Let's see what damage Major Tom can cause in return. He only gets 6 dice because he's got no ram fitted. He'll also be taking 2 hazards. That's just 4 damage in return. So we're now in gear phase 4 of turn 1, and time for a quick link with the drone to get a bird's eye view of how the battlefield is faring. Major Tom has managed to slip by the Black Widow there, slipping straight past Venom as if she's not there, and as he's done so, just at the completion of that manoeuvre, he's dropped some mines which have gone straight under the Venom. That's going to cause her some problems as she moves, but as she's in gear 3 and we're in gear phase 4, she's not going to move for a while. So we've got those fireworks to look forward to. I can't wait! Major Tom, taking advantage of the fact he's in higher gear than Mary Lou, he's pulling away, putting some distance in, and he's using his turreted machine gun to fire back at her. 3 dice. But he misses. An opportunity squandered. So now we see Peggy Sue trying to catch up. She's pulling a full turn there, which in Gear 4 is actually a hazardous manoeuvre. So 2 shifts, a spin and a hazard, they just cancel each other out, so she doesn't end up any better or worse off than she would have done. Completes the manoeuvre, but we'll take a hazard for doing so. She's now got 2 hazards and she's in Gear 4. It also leaves her with her turreted mortar pointing straight up Skeeter's tailpipe. 4 attack dice, only 1 hits, but that is a critical, so the damage is double. Chalky Board Rubber's gonna need 2 6s from his 3 evade dice to avoid that damage. And he's only gone and done it, hasn't he? Amazing. So that brings us to the end of Gear Phase 4. So as there's no vehicles in any gear higher than 4, that means we move directly on now to Turn 2, Gear Phase 1. This means that Mary Lou in Venom will be moving, and she will be triggering the mines dropped by Major Tom. Pole position has returned again to the Black Widders, and we see that Venom is trying to pull off a hairpin, which in Gear 3 is a hazardous manoeuvre, but if she pulls it off, that will bring Mary Lou's car smashing into the side of Skeeter, who, let's face it, ain't got a lot of health to spare. But before she can even smash into her target, she's got to get herself out of that minefield. That will cause potentially 4 dice worth of damage to her car, and she will also pick up a hazard for each point of damage she takes, in addition to the hazard that she's already going to get from that hairpin bend. That's 3 hits, so she'll get 3 attempts to evade because she's in Gear 3. Ouch! She fails them all. So she's now up to 9 hits with 4 hazards. 1 more hit and she's toast. Boom! In she goes, electing not to roll any skid dice. Mary Lou declares a smash, obviously, and perhaps just as obviously, Chalky Board Rubber declares an evade. 1 hit from the attack dice, that was 3 for the speed and 2 for the ram. Chalky Board Rubber's evade dice off camera, unfortunately, but he evaded all of the hits, so he's got away with that scot-free. He just gets 1 hazard.
But because Skeeter is a performance car, he can now use his slip away rule, which means that he's been T-boned. He can now declare an extra activation, which he will use, and he is going to use a gentle turn just to try and get away from things. So that is it's a neutral manoeuvre, it's not hazardous. He has his 5 hazards. Now he's going to try and see if he can get rid of those hazards. Risky, I know, but let's see. Let's just see. Wrong dice. He's going to try and get rid of those hazards. Risky, I know, but let's see. Let's see if he can manage it. So we have 2 shifts, a spin and a slide. That doesn't really help him much. There's absolutely no point in trying to go for that because we're just gaining an extra hazard, so he could end up automatically wiping himself out. So he's going to have to cancel the spin and the slide with those shifts and just make his move and keep his 5 hazards. Now that doesn't count as his activation. That's an additional activation because he's a performance car. That's an advantage of having a performance car, and it will be Major Tom's team next to go.
Major Tom's going next. He's in Gear 4, 1 hazard. He needs to get himself back in the fight, so he's going to pull off what's a potentially hazardous manoeuvre. He's going to do a normal turn, which in Gear 4 gains him a hazard.
Dice. He's not changing his strategy now. No skid dice rolled, so he's just going to move, gain an additional hazard, so he's now on 2 hazards, still in Gear 4, and still with 7 damage, 7 out of 10, so it's still looking a bit dodgy for him. He's going to try and fire his turreted machine gun back at Venom, but I suspect that that is out of range. Let's just have a look. Yeah, well out of range. There's no way it's out of reach. So that brings us to the end of turn 2, gear phase 1. So now we get to turn 2, gear phase 2. Major Tom's going to continue leading from the front. He's going to take the first move, and he is going to try as best he can to get himself back into this battle. So he's going to try another turn, which again in gear 4 is a hazardous manoeuvre. He's going to continue with the strategy of not rolling any dice. He's just going to move. There you go, move is complete. He takes an additional hazard, bringing him up to 3 now. Remains in gear 4. And that is his move completed. This brings us back to Mary Lou in Venom. Now she's been trying very hard to use her ram to good effect. Fairly successfully, actually. But now she's in a position where she doesn't do something quick. She's going to crash straight into the side of the barn, and that's not going to do her any good at all, given that she's only got 1 more hit point left on her vehicle. So she's going to try a veer. Now she can just about complete it, but in gear 3, that's a neutral. She's going to try rolling her 3 skid dice. Now this is where it could go horribly wrong for her. Shift, a hazard, and a spin. She's got to take that extra hazard and try and re-roll those, because she needs to lose those hazards. So 2 more re-rolled. Oh, look at that. So she can use her shift to cancel that slide, but she still takes an extra hazard by completing that manoeuvre. 6 hazards means it's a wipeout check. Now we need to make a flip check as part of the wipeout step. We need to roll equal or over the current gear. Now she's in gear 3, so it's a 1 or 2 she fails. If not, she'll be fine. It's a 6, so she doesn't flip, but she does wipe out. She reduces herself down to gear 1, which she won't be happy about. But she does lose all of her hazards, but it also means she can be now pivoted to face any direction that Major Tom's team wants her to. And she is going to be pivoted to face in that direction. So she's not actually touching anything, so she can't move through it. However, she ain't going to be able to move forward this turn. Yeah, that's where she is. That's where she is in gear 1, and that's where she's going to be stuck for a few gear phases to come. Going to have to pull off a fairly impressive manoeuvre here to stop himself falling off the edge of the world. So he's going to try hairpin in gear 3. Now that's an automatic hazard because it's a hazardous manoeuvre. However, he's only got 2 hazards, so he doesn't need to roll his dice at all. He can just complete that manoeuvre, put himself in that position there, and just gain 1 more hazard. So there you go, still in gear 3 at the end of gear phase 2, still damage 6, and he's completed that manoeuvre. We now come to Redback, driven by Mary Lou. Now she's going to attempt to complete a gentle turn. She's trying to get herself back into the battle, but she doesn't want to do anything too risky, because it's highly likely she'll end up the last car representing the Black Widders. So she also is not going to roll any of her skid dice. She's just going to complete that manoeuvre in gear 4. So she ends up there and gains an additional hazard. And that is the end of that.
So here at the start now of gear phase 3 in turn 2, we've got an aerial view of the battlefield, seeing the positions of the cars. Right at the north point of the battlefield, we've got Skeeter with just 2 hit points left. Coming down, you can see his teammate Major Tom, Again, just 2 hit points left. So both those cars are in a bit of danger. In front of the workshop and recently wiped out, we've got Mary Lou. She's got 1 hit point left and she's in gear 1. And then over on the far side of the battlefield, the only car that's still got full health left is Peggy Sue, driving Redback. Now she's got to do some pretty significant manoeuvres coming up, because otherwise she's going to drive either off the end of the world or into that blooming great rock in front of her. So let's see how she gets herself out of that. And as you can see, she didn't avoid the rock, but she did avoid the edge of the world. It's a collision with an inanimate object, so it's an automatic smash attack on behalf of the rock. 3 dice because of the impact speed, plus 2 because the rock is a heavier weight class than the car. That's 5 attack dice. After a moderately successful evasion attempt, the Redback takes 2 damage from the collision. So Major Tom is getting himself back into the battle now. He's going to complete a gentle turn, and as is customary, he's not rolling any skid dice. He's playing it safe. So here he is, nicely in position to open up with his heavy machine gun and finish off Venom. But he's missed. With all his shots, he's missed at that range. Well, that has bought Venom a stay of execution. That will be a relief, no doubt, to the Black Widders team. Mary Lou in Venom, no doubt, just wants to get the heck out of Dodge. She wants to get out of the way of Major Tom. Unfortunately for her, she's in Gear 1, and this is Gear Phase 3. She can't move. She's stuck. So the turn moves straight on to Skeeter. And Chalky Board Rubber just completes a nice, safe, no dice roll, gentle move forward to get himself in support of his team captain. Which brings us to the end of this turn. We're now in Gear Phase 4. Major Tom is the only driver in Gear 4, so he's the only vehicle that's going to move. He's doing a nice medium straight, no dice rolling, and going to open fire, of course, with his heavy machine gun.
That's 1 hit. 1 hit. Now, Mary Lou can try and evade with 1 evade dice because she's only in Gear 1. No, so she takes 1 point of damage. That brings her up to 10 points of damage, which is the limit for a car. So she is now a wreck. What she needs to do now is roll to see if she explodes. She has no ammo tokens, so she just needs to roll 1 dice. On a 6, she explodes. That's a 4. She doesn't explode, but she does become a wreck. So now we're in turn 3, Gear Phase 1. Redback, driven by Peggy Sue, is in Gear 3. She's touching the rock there, so she can now ignore it. She needs to get the heck out of Dodge because she is not going to survive this encounter unless she escapes. She's going to try to complete the turn, but she's also going to roll her 4 shift dice. And that is an appalling roll. Absolutely abysmal. She's going to have to try and re-roll all of that and gamble that she can get rid of some of them hazards. So, she's now on 6 hazards. She's going to go for it. She's going to push it. And it's not enough. It's not enough. She now has 6 hazard tokens plus she's going to wipe out. So let's complete her move to there. She's now going to complete the wipeout phase. So she will be in gear number 1. She will lose all of her hazards and she still has 2 damage. Now let's see if she's going to wipe out. So make a flip check. She needs to roll equal to or over her current gear. She was in gear 3. So she needs to roll anything other than a 1 or 2. She's rolled a 6. She doesn't flip, but she's now in gear 1 and she's spun out. So let's put her in that position there, in a pretty much impossible situation there. Major Tom is in a position to come and do some damage. So he's going to complete, or try to complete, a gentle turn. A gentle turn in gear 4, which doesn't give him any hazards, but also doesn't give him any extra shifts. He's going to not roll any dice. He's just going to complete that manoeuvre, coming forward with that damage. 3 hazards in gear 4. And once again, his turreted machine gun is going to open fire on that performance car. He has 3 dice of damage, and he causes 2 hits, a critical hit, which Redback can try to evade with 1 evade dice because she's only in gear 1, and she doesn't. So she takes 2 more damage. 2 more damage, bringing her up to 4, which means she's now suffered half of her available damage as a performance car. So that brings us to Skeeter. Skeeter's going to try and do what he can to get back in the battle, but he's a bit out on the limb at the moment, and I suspect that it's going to be all over by the time he gets there. But he's going to try and complete a veer in gear 3, which gives him no hazards, no shifts. He's not rolling any dice. He's going to keep his hazards. This seems to be a feature of the Warbirds team, minimising their hazard rolls, just trying to keep things steady, gentle and predictable. That brings us now to the end of turn 3, gear phase 1.
So we're now into turn 3, gear phase 2. As you can see from this this aerial view, the situation's looking pretty bleak indeed for Peggy Sue in Redback. I don't really see what she can do to get out of this.
So now turn 3, gear phase 2. Major Tom in the B-17 is in gear 4, so he absolutely can move. Just a gentle turn for him. Not taking any risks at all. That is a safe manoeuvre for him. Again, once again, rolling no dice, keeping 3 hazards, staying in gear phase in gear 4, and taking another pot shot with his heavy machine gun at the now stranded Redback. That's well within range. So 3 more dice, 3 more attack dice. And that's 2 hits. 2 hits, which the Redback is going to try and evade. Doesn't evade, so takes another 2 hits. This is not looking good for this performance car. However, it is now Peggy Sue's move. Now, she is going to attempt a turn in reverse. So attempting this turn now. And she's going to roll all 4 of her skid dice. Characteristic risky driving. And it hasn't really paid off, to be fair. She's got 2 shifts and 2 spins. Now she can take a gear change and cancel the hazard to gear 2. And use the hazard, the shift from the manoeuvre to get rid of 1 of the spins, and she can take the other spin, so moving to here and completing her spin to there, and just take 1 hazard. So that wasn't too disastrous for her. Now what might turn out to be disastrous is what she's going to do next. She has a turret mounted mortar with 1 last shot available. She's well within range. She's got a turret so it's in arc, so she is taking a shot with that mortar at the rear of Major Tom. Revenge for her sister. 4 attack dice. 4 attack dice. And she gets 1 hit, but it's a critical, so that causes 2 damage to Major Tom. Can he evade that in gear 4 with 4 evade dice? Yes, he's evaded 1. So he gains an extra wound hit on his vehicle. So it brings him up to 8. So he is very, very close, as is his opponent, to wiping out. that just brings us now to Skeeter, who's got now to try and get in here and save his team leader. Now he needs to do this, and so we'll be rolling no dice. He's got to complete this maneuver. So in gear 3, a gentle turn, which gives him no hazards, but equally gives him no shifts. So he finishes that with the same amount of hazards he started with, which is 3. In gear 3, 6 damage. Finishes his turn with the redback in range and in arc. So he's opening fire with his double forward mounted heavy machine guns. That's a burst of 6 rounds into the side of this performance car. And he gets himself a 6, a 6 and a 4, which is 5 damage. 5 damage because 2 criticals. Now, Peggy Sue has only 2 evade dice. Now she's gonna blow up anyway, but let's see what she can evade. She's evaded 1. So she takes 4 hits. Those 4 hits take her up to 10 damage, which exceeds the damage that her car can take. So she is now wrecked. She needs to move a short straight forward, which I believe I forgot to do with the previous. Oh, look at that, straight into the back of Major Tom. So at the end of this, will she explode? She has no ammo. Whoa. No ammo tokens left. So on a 6, no, she does not explode. So she will become a wreck, but it's a collision window. So she's hit the rear of Major Tom. She's in gear 2. He is in gear 4. So that's a -2 difference between them. Major Tom's going to evade, so it's just 1 hazard for Major Tom, and that will be it. No damage dice.
So there we have it, folks. A successful defense of his new workshop by Major Tom and his Warbirds team. So quite what this means for the future stability of the Badlands border territories, only time will tell. But one thing you can be certain of, whatever the response to this is going to be, it's going to be messy. And I can assure you that whatever happens, Wastelands Raceway TV will have our cameras on site to record the carnage.